Part of the answer is we have to do more.
Will you yield, will the senator yield for another question?
I yield for a question, but I will retain while retaining the floor.
This is a question about the signs of the times in our democracy. We will celebrate 250 years of American democracy in 2026. And I want it to be a celebration, not a coronation, not a requiem, not a wake, but a celebration. A week ago Sunday, 250 years ago, Patrick Henry stood on the floor of Henrico Parish, now known as St. John's Episcopal Church on Churchill in Richmond, at a moment of decision where people were challenged to understand the signs of the times, at a moment of tyranny. And he asked the immortal question, and I almost view your vigil as asking the same question about where we would stand in such a moment. And there were different forks in the road, a phrase that has attained some meaning recently. And Patrick Henry said, as for me, give me liberty or give me death. You're giving a liberty speech, my colleague. You're giving a liberty speech as the nation begins to think about 250 years of democracy. The opposite of liberty, that which Henry was fighting against, was tyranny. I am one that believes that we should mark anniversaries. We shouldn't just act steady state like this country was ordained and will just go on forever regardless. We're coming up on 250 years of American democracy, and there is a live question about its continued existence that this generation is grappling with. Henry gave that speech at St. John's Church, and a few months later, July 4, 1776, the U.S. declared its independence from England. And our history in this new chapter began. And at various points along the way, during the 1850s, say, or during the 1950s, generations just like ours have had to grapple with the question of whether the experiment will continue or not. Some of our national symbols have some unusual aspects to them that point to this experiment. We have a national anthem that ends with a question, not an assertion, not a declaration, but whether the flag will still stand over the home of the free and the land of the brave, question mark. The state flag that Virginia adopted on July 5, 1776 is a most unusual flag. It has a woman representing Roman virtue standing astride a deposed tyrant whose crown is knocked off, who is holding a broken chain in his hand that he's laying on the ground. It's one of only 6 state flags with a woman on it. It's the only state flag that features toplessness, which occasionally creates some raciness in schools as students ask about it. But it's also the flag with the most unique state motto of any state. All states have mottos. 49 states' mottos are positive. Hope, Eureka, Excelsior, onward and upward, ad astra per aspera. Michigan's has the most unusual positive motto. In Latin, if you seek a pleasant peninsula, look around you. Well, I wasn't looking for a peninsula, but I'd rather it be pleasant than not. Virginia's is the only flag and the only state with a motto that's not positive. It's a rebuke. Sic semper tyrannis. Thus be it always, thus be it ever to tyrants. George Wythe, Thomas Jefferson's teacher, was in charge of designing the flag and chose that as the motto. Think about the verb tense, right? It's the only one that's a rebuke. And it has stayed on our state seal and state flag since July 5, 1776. Many state flags have been changed in the last 20 years. Utah's changed, Minnesota's changed, Mississippi's changed, Georgia's changed. Virginia has essentially not changed since 1776. Neither the figure of virtue standing astride a deposed monarch or the motto, sic semper tyrannis, again, the verb tense, semper, always. ever. It's not in the current tense, no tyrants are down with tyrants. It's in the future tense, thus be it always to tyrants, thus be it ever to tyrants. The Virginia flag that we pass by in Virginia every day without thinking about it, it's in every school we pass it by. It asks us two questions 250 years later. Do we retain the ability to recognize tyranny? Do we retain the virtue to defeat it? Can we recognize tyranny? Can we retain the virtue to defeat it? My friend, you are standing on the floor in the tradition of Patrick Henry 250 years later. You're raising a question about liberty and our fidelity to it. And so my question to you would be, what gives you hope that the answer we will give to these questions as Americans, as those commemorating a quarter millennium of American democracy, what gives you confidence that we will answer these questions in a way that will honor those who came before us?
I want to